It's not lost on me how every single time I say dieting doesn't work, some random stranger will come in and say, yes, they do. Diets work. I've done diets before, and I've lost weight, so they work. And to that I say, thank you, random stranger, because you literally just proved my point. You see, random stranger, you said diets as in plural, as in more than one, which means that they didn't work. Because if something works, why do you have to keep redoing them and restarting them?
Two things. Number one, they typically don't mean they needed more than one diet to lose the weight. What they mean is that there's more than one effective type of diet. In reality, all these diets work through the same mechanism, but that's besides the point. Two, let's say I go out and get an STD, and then I go down to my local clinic for a little antibiotics and get it treated. In this hypothetical, I continue the habits that got me the STD in the first place, and boom, I have it again. I go down to my local clinic again and get the antibiotics again. Now I had to take these antibiotics more than once, so based on your logic, they don't work, right?
So if we're going to oversimplify something, yes, diets work short term.
No, they work as long as you're on the diet.
Because they're not meant to be sustainable.
In reality, it's because a diet is not meant to prevent weight regain once you're off the diet. That's not how it's work, that's not what diets are meant for, and that's not even possible.
Right? So if you are looking for something sustainable, how about we try working on a healthy relationship with food? How about we try to look inside and figure out our internalized fat phobia? How about we do small steps into actually having a sustainable lifestyle?
This is all lovely, but it's also all possible while maintaining a healthy weight.
So in a majority of cases, if folks are really struggling with mobility issues or are immobilized, like you said, due to their weight, there are complex health issues that are keeping them maintaining a higher body mass. And losing weight often will only make those issues worse.
Every time I have a Diet Coke, pink fairies fly out of my ass. I'm sorry, I thought we were just both saying things that have no basis in reality.
But either way, folks that have mobility issues do not owe you health. Health is a construct, y'all.
Health is a construct. What does that even mean?
And then I hear those people, oh, well, they're hurting the healthcare workers. You know, if you can be fat, but don't expect healthcare workers to hurt their back to help you. Being fat is something that people can't control.
There's literally an entire registry dedicated to people who've done it.
You being a nurse or a care staff is something you can control. And if you're concerned as a staff about not being able to properly lift someone, maybe do some training, lift some weights, take a class on ergonomic patient care and all that. Also, my dog's in the background barking because he hates this comment as well. Yeah, he's really upset.
I'm stunned here because the level of first world privilege is just insane. You're telling me I gotta work a 12+ hour shift and then be a elite level powerlifter on the side? Insanity. But what makes it even more insane is that it doesn't matter how strong you are. The greatest powerlifters in the world, the greatest strongmen, the strongest bodybuilders, Olympic weightlifters, whatever have you, still commonly get injured when dealing with heavy ass weight. That's the reality. And the nerve of you to tell them, oh, go lift weights. Why don't you take your own fucking advice?
Y'all don't get tired of trying to lose weight.
Well, firstly, I don't try to lose weight. I just do it because I understand how to properly control my caloric intake in order to achieve weight loss. But continue.
Like, you know, I kind of really hate that weight gain and being of a bigger size is just not taught like it's a part of life.
Well, it is a part of life, but that doesn't necessitate that it's automatically a good thing because it's part of life. That's what we call the naturalistic fallacy.
Or even, what is it called? Genes, genetics. Look at your people. What do they look like?
Well, I'm going to assume that both of us here are African Americans, and as African Americans, we are both of Western and Central African descent. And when you look at the obesity rates in Western and Central African countries, they're some of the lowest in the world. But when you come over to America, African Americans have some of the highest rates of obesity, especially black women. So, genetics isn't really a good excuse. Try again.
And this is coming from someone who, like, all my life, is just, my weight has always been a huge deal. With other people, of course, eventually it's going to be within myself, even as a child, all the way to adulthood. Now, I say in the past few years, I just don't give a damn. Like, any medical problems that I've had, it's nothing tied to my weight. And notably, I've seen so many specialists recently, and none of them, by specialists, I mean doctors, none of them, and I mean none of them, mentioned me going on a diet, losing weight. Not even a factor, because they know that has nothing to do with any other causes I'm dealing with.
Actually, according to this 2017 survey conducted by Kaplan and colleagues, the primary reason doctors tend not to bring up the weight of obese patients when treating them is a fear of embarrassing them. It's more likely your doctor is simply being too nice.
So, I say all that to say, eat the damn food. Stop trying to lose weight. Mentally, seeing before and afters constantly really messes up your head.
Then you should take that up with a therapist, because I promise you that's not a normal reaction you should be having to photos like that.
It does. Especially when y'all post the before, like some slumped over picture, unhappy, like the world treats you bad.
I'm not going to deny that being treated poorly can lead to depression, but let's also acknowledge that body fat is hormonally active, and having an abundance of hormonally active tissue fucking with your hormones is also going to affect your mood.
When you're bigger, that's just a fact. That doesn't mean you were bad and there was something wrong with you. Okay? And it does take community to unlearn certain things. But y'all, at least when you post the before and after, please don't do yourself dirty. Y'all will literally do the sounds like I was such a loser. I pulled myself out of bootstraps. Now I'm worth something. And I'm just going to keep it to you. Some of y'all look better, bigger. I don't know. And weren't unhealthy.
I've mentioned this before, but according to this 2014 review published by Lasikiewicz and colleagues, weight loss in some not only improves self-esteem, but reduced depressive symptoms, improved body image, and improved health-related quality of life. Here's my before photo. I look very unhappy, don't I? It's because I wasn't putting on a show. I was drinking a bottle of Barefoot and or Stella Rose and or a 40 ounce of Stella Artois every fucking day. If a friend of mine had drugs and wanted someone to do them with, guess who they called, because they knew he wouldn't say no. That guy. Here's me now. I look happier, right? It's because I am. It's not an act to denigrate fat people. It's my reality.
Really? So like when you get down to lick the boot, do you grill it a little bit, put a little seasoning, salt, do you cut it up into 4 squares so it's easier for you to chew? Like, what do you do?
I have an air fryer.
Google is free, but you're in luck because I'm a teacher, so I'll make it a little easier for you and anybody else who thinks that this is trying to avoid accountability.
Charles Darwin once said, ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. And she's about to prove him right.
This country was set up with not us in mind. Unless you were a no one gives a fuck about you, and therefore medical standards were based off of them.
It's been 200 years since Adolf Hitler developed his BMI system. Do you think there's really been no updates since then? You can go online and find BMI adjusted for gender.
Which means things like this happen all the time. The consistent exposure to social and environmental stressors due to racism results in chronic inflammation and subsequent disease, including obesity. So it hurts my heart when y'all use these standards for us when it's not by us.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Racism leads to obesity, thus the standards being used to determine obesity don't apply to us. Genius.
I hope you wake up soon, brother.
I got 8 hours of sleep. I'm plenty woke. Let's look at reality really quick. I hate to use older studies, but to date I can't find a newer study similar to this one. This 2010 study by Rahman and colleagues measured the BMI of 3 groups of women, with those groups being Black, White, and Hispanic. The researchers then directly measured the body fat percentage of the women as a way to directly measure obesity. What the researchers found is that the BMI actually underestimated the prevalence of obesity in all groups of women, not overestimated it. Now this makes sense, because women of the same height as a man would typically still have a smaller frame. Thus, a system based on men is going to miss higher levels of adiposity in a lot of women. The real issue when it comes to BMI is not that it just doesn't work, it's that chances are people who are obese, meaning they have a BMI above 30, were already obese before they reached that BMI, and this is especially the case in women. In my opinion, this just makes BMI akin to a fire detector that goes off 2 minutes after the room is filled with smoke. But when it tells you the house is on fire, it's on fire.
If you can avoid it, please do not get gastric sleeve or gastric bypass. It is a barbaric procedure with huge amounts of complications, high fatality rate. You're not a bad person if you want it. The world hates us. I beg you to please look into health at every size practices, health at every size doctors, health at every size theory. You will likely be so much healthier because of it and avoid a lifetime of complications. And if you have had to go through it and you're on the other side now in fat liberation, I'm sorry. And the system failed you and you fucking rock for going through that. You're not a bad person for wanting those surgeries. You're not a bad person if you've got them. But if you can avoid getting them, please do. Please.
Fear-mongering. Noun. The action of deliberately arousing public fear or alarm about a particular issue. I'm not going to sit here and tell you bariatric surgery is the safest thing ever, but what I will tell you is that if you are large enough to receive the surgery, your doctor has decided that you are so large that not undergoing the surgery is a detriment to your health. Dumaris and others, 2021, took a sample of over 2,600 obese patients, half of which consisted of everyone who underwent bariatric surgery in Ontario from January 2010 to December 2016, and the other half didn't go through surgery. After follow-up, it was determined that the group that underwent bariatric surgery experienced lowered risk of heart failure by 56%, lowered their risk of ischemic heart disease by 40%, heart failure hospitalization decreased by 63%, cardiovascular mortality in general was decreased by 65%, and all-cause mortality was reduced by 50%. Shower and others, published in 2019, gathered data from over 22,000 individuals who had undergone bariatric surgery from 2005 to 2012. And over 66,000 obese individuals who had not undergone the surgery. Researchers compared the instances of cancer between the groups and found that overall the risk was reduced by 33% in the bariatric group. The risk was even lower when looking specifically at cancers associated with obesity. Those who underwent the surgery had a 42% decrease in instances of postmenopausal breast cancer, 41% decrease in colon cancer, a 50% decrease in endometrial cancer, and a 41% decrease in obesity-related cancers overall. Now let's talk reality. In reality, Splotchmaker's little, "Oh, bariatric surgery is so dangerous, don't do it," is concern trolling. Plain and simple. Leia does not actually care, and that's why she doesn't talk about any data. Leia is what we call a crab in a barrel. She doesn't want to see her fellow fat people doing things to improve their health, so she drags them down any way she can. In this video, she's doing what she can to prevent them from even climbing out of the barrel to begin with. It's a simple case of misery loves company.
I really don't know about everyone else, but I promote obesity. What you gonna do? You gonna call me fat? That's what you gonna do? Guess what? I'm fat. Guess what's not gonna change? Me being fat, bitch! So thin and thin can come back all at once. Cause if it's one thing about this fat bitch right here, it's my coochie stay wet. What about yours? Oh, them bitches got that dry coochie, and that's what got them all mad and upset about the fat people, cause they got dry coochies. Dry coochie, bitch!
I'll gather around for a story from your old Uncle Hotep. Saint Ebba the Younger is a Catholic figure known for cutting off her own nose before a Viking invasion as a way to dissuade the Vikings from having their way with her. All the other nuns in her house also did this, but in the end, the Vikings just ended up killing everyone. Ultimately, Saint Ebba performed this act of self-harm that had no negative effects on the Vikings. This is essentially what our fat activist here is doing. Promote obesity if you want, and stay obese. Aside from the financial consequences of the obesity epidemic, obesity only increases your risk of type 2 diabetes. Not mine, but hey, I hope that, quote, wet coochie comes with insulin.
I find it interesting when people tell me that I'm discouraging people from weight loss, and that really isn't my intention. If you want to pursue weight loss, you have bodily autonomy, and I respect that. You can do whatever you want with your body.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. I'm just going to promote the idea that what you're doing is bound to fail, but I'm by no means discouraging you from doing it. That's what you sound like.
But what I always encourage people to reflect on are the reasons why you're trying to lose weight.
I have a family history of hypertension and gout, which also results from obesity. It's in my best interest not to increase my risk of those conditions.
And if you say, well, I want to lose weight because I want to be healthier, well, we know that people can be healthy at every size, and that weight loss doesn't necessarily make you healthier.
Sure, and you can drive home from the bar drunk, but the fact is you're at an increased risk of a car accident by doing that. You can walk across a canyon on a tightrope, but you're less likely to fall if you just went across a bridge. I say all this to say, yeah, you can be metabolically healthy and obese, but the chances of you not being healthy in the future are higher than a normal weight person.
Like, if you have a healthy relationship with food and exercise that improves your health but doesn't make you lose weight, will you be satisfied with that?
A proper calorie deficit and exercise will result in weight loss, without exception, so asking this is like asking if I shoot a basketball, would I be dissatisfied if it didn't come back down? No, not really, because I'd be more concerned with the fact that the laws of physics have ceased.
Because I do, and I am. But I think a lot of people just use being healthier as a veneer to cover up their true intention, which is just that they don't want to be fat, which is fine, but just say that.
I don't want to be fat. While I do acknowledge that yes, aesthetics are a part of that reason, and that's okay by the way, the health consequences of obesity are so well established that it's ignorant to imply that people aren't losing weight for health reasons. Hey y'all, after my last video, I decided I wanted to take a break. Around the time of my last upload, I started taking a new medication for my anxiety disorder, and I don't want to say it was the cause of 2 to 3 panic attacks, but I started the medication and I went from someone who has never had panic attacks to having 2 to 3 in a short span of time. I've since stopped the medication and decided to just not even look at that side of TikTok as to give myself any sort of comfort where I can find it. When I'm going through my mental shit, sometimes I want a space where I'm not hearing fat people in the richest country on the planet complaining about the most trivial nonsense. I've largely bounced back and I'm on vacation for this month, so expect more soon.